So, by Mbeseha, I was about asking the question before that. What do you think after our people are being subjected to such cruelty at home and they will flee in a country where we have practicing lawyers that are of Southern Cameroon's origin? I know Barrister Fruit calls them Ambazonians, but you don't recognize them as Ambazonians. Last time you mentioned that if they are already doing what they are doing, they are not legitimate Ambazonians. You know, I understand that you do not recognize them as Ambazonians. So what do you think about not just these lawyers who are enablers, who are suddenly enablers of Cameroon's uh, genocide? What do you think about human rights organizations and their report? Because their reports do not cover what those they call the IDPs and we call them refugees. It doesn't cover the torture, the pain they are going through. Sometime last year, one of their activists even insulted our sisters that they're smelling in their taxis. This is what is considered in international law as abuse, and our people are protected under international law. What would you say is the behavior of human rights organizations and the lawyers, not just these two, in general, vis-a-vis this current situation?
Thank you, Paddy. Before I get there, let me just say something about this issue of internally displaced in Yaoundé and Douala in particular. You see,
I think
before we got
I
there,
would rather call them refugees.
now I'm coming to it. Before we got there, in the last segment, we talked about elections. I want to recall that in Cameroon, for example, in their law, there's something that once elected into parliament, you become a national parliamentarian. Therefore, your constituency is the whole country. And I want our brothers and sisters to remember that the bulk of our elected MPs and senators live in Douala and Yaoundé. No matter whether they were elected from Campbell, from the BLM, or wherever, they live in Yaoundé. Therefore, Yaoundé is equally their constituency. And we have seen this thing going on. Our own people, their own people displaced and moved to Yaoundé or to Douala or somewhere else, going through these tortures. They have the political power, they have the articles in their hands. They have said nothing. A good example is Mr. Osi, Joshua Osi. He lives in Douala. He is not just a parliamentarian, he's a parliamentarian with a powerful position. What have our political so-called elected leaders who live in Yaoundé, including uh, including who lives in Douala and works in Yaoundé, they include Mosonge. They have a national constituency. They have done nothing, not even uttered a word in defense of the internally displaced who are moved there to meet them in Yaoundé or in Douala with the hope that they are their own cousins, they are their brothers who could give them even anything. They have done nothing. And so, again, back to the segment we dealt with in elections, that tells you we don't need to be in elections. Now, over to what you have just raised. See, there are some technicalities involved. When people are internally displaced, when people are internally replaced anywhere in the world, from one zone to the other, the primary responsibility is on the government of the country. If people move from Douala to Yaoundé or from Boya to Bamenda, that's internal displacement. If in a rare Ambazonia, that is our problem. We should champion it as an internal matter. We don't wait for the UN to come and deal with that. The UN will give you support because the UN agencies give you support. They accompany you where you raise the issue. You have hundreds and thousands of internally displaced who need housing, who need accompany you because the UN agencies don't work in their country and work until you authorize them. And so it is not that the human rights groups are not reporting. They are reporting enough. Yes, they may not have reported this the way that you want. But what of the ones that they have reported and highlighted thousand times over to the whole world, reported even at the United Nations? What has been done? The human rights group can only report.
Okay,
That's their
okay,
job.
Mr. Mbeseha, the question I'm asking
Yes.
is now you're talking in generality about human rights group. What about the two attorneys or advocates or lawyers that that have been highlighted by Barrister Fru and their attitude towards the war, the way they look at genocide, and all of that? Don't you think that could be not just a betrayal, but one of the obstacles we are facing in terms of having an intervention or having a
No, I mean,
plight,
it's not an obstacle.
pulling
It's
recognition?
not an obstacle. It's not an obstacle at all. I've had the opportunity to say this. People, the two dimensions are just few. They've elected to work for the opponent. If we blame Agombala, we blame Munzu. What do we do with Salah, who is even suing us? Salah's
Yeah.
father is from Kumuno. He's even suing us, helping to prosecute us. They have elected their own side for different reasons, maybe to make money or to make political points. That's the,
Now
I don't
before
consider
before
them as,
Barrister Fru,
I
before
don't
Barrister
consider, let me
Fru
learn.
reacts to what you're
Now, I
saying,
don't consider them as Ambazonians in this light. Let me finish here,
I
pardon me.
agree with you. I agree with you. The fact that you don't
Let me
consider
learn
them
now.
as
Let me
ambassadors.
learn. Let me learn. Let me
Okay,
learn. Let me learn.
please
I
do.
don't consider them as Ambazonians because, for example, there are many. I've said there are many. What will you expect of a Kerimuna? Who are the boys out in Yaoundé? But it's from Gembu. He's fighting for Yaoundé everywhere in the world, even internationally, asking Glencore to pay money to Yaoundé. But Ben Muna will not fight Sonara or SNH to pay royalties to Ndian, even to bring water there for the people to drink. And so they have elected to be where they are. We know who they are. We know where they are. For me, I don't need to discuss them. They know that we don't agree
Now,
with them.
before Barrister Fro reacts to what you have said, I just want us to see an image of the gravity of the situation so that Barrister Fro can react and then we move on. Look at what is happening.
If you look around, nobody is touched. Everybody, they are all fine. It is only us. It means that the main target was just us. Everybody, they are all fine. The whole Oja, they have not broken anywhere. They just target only us and decided to destroy our thing. We asked them that why must they decide to do this kind of thing. They say that we are Anglophones, we don't have any power to do anything in this Yaoundé. So they broke it without any prior notice, nothing at all. This is the destruction that they have caused. Customers' work that are down, they have destroyed them. And we even wanted to film them. We even wanted to make a video while they are doing the action. They almost shut us down because they were here well armed as if we are criminals, of which we have not offended anybody. So that's what is going on. If you look at
So
Yes,
that's what
Sadi, let
people
me
are
read.
going. Barrister Fro, go ahead.
That is the video I was talking about. Now, I don't disagree. I disagree with Barrister Mbesa that these people are not Ambazonians. They are Ambazonians who are working for the enemy. Until we have a government where we can try them and to take away their citizenship, I consider them Ambazonians. They are blacklegs, they are traitors, and we cannot rely on them for liberation. But they are still Ambazonians because that's where they were born. What I am saying is that a lawyer who cannot define genocide just because it is expedient not to be able to define is is an enabler of the enemy, and there is nothing we can do from this end until we have our country and bring them to book. They are still Ambazonians. Secondly, I cannot rely on anybody, the so-called elected. There has never been a free and fair election in La Republic of Cameroon. And from 2017, when we restored our independence, we restored our state, I have come to recognize La République du Cameroon as a foreign country. And therefore, anybody running away from the war that the foreign country, that same foreign country, which is our enemy, is fighting us on our territory, and run into that part of the country, is a refugee by definition. When you call an internal displaced person, you are actually saying that we are part of La République du Cameroon. Therefore, those running away from war are being displaced internally in the country. And you are complaining that those who have been elected into the enemy's parliament, when we are no longer members of that particular country, have to do something for us. They are not in position to do anything for us. When they are breaking this people in Yaoundé, all those enablers, the chiefs, the parliamentarians, the senators, and the rulers who have abdicated their thrones from Ambazonia, and they are living in Yaoundé, are watching, and they are
You see,
also incapable. They are also incapable. Let me finish.
Mr. Pro,
Yes,
please. I want us to coordinate it
yes,
in a way that we can really achieve what we want in the discussion. I understand the
yes.
emotions that you're connecting. You're
Listen to
connecting
me.
with.
If you are only
I'm
allow me to learn,
listening. No,
if you allow
I've
me to
listened.
learn,
I want you to get to a point where it's necessary for us. I've listened to you very well, and I understand the emotions you're connecting to this story. But this is what I really want us to look at, which can help us to paint a picture that I would love much. Is what this commentator is talking, the way Cameroon military comes with so much brutality. That's something we cannot be distracted with enablers. These guys are already enablers, and I like what you're saying about them. But look at how the gross human rights abuse, where people who are fending for their lives, their property and shops is destroyed. The normal French occupational approach is used to brutalize aggressively. They are being brutalized. They are being threatened with war machine guns, and they can't even speak. That's what I want us to comment on pretty quickly before I get by Mbeseha. I want you to focus on
all
that.
right,
This
all
is
right, all
our
right,
election.
all right, all right. Listen to me. We cannot, we cannot rely on any political establishment in La République du Cameroon to protect our interests. We expect the international community to treat our people who ran away from the war as refugees in La République du Cameroon, and take and ensure that they are safe. The international conspiracy against us does not permit that from happening. Our people have been left to be slaughtered and tortured and slaughtered and on their own, both in Yaoundé and in Douala. That is the question I am addressing. I cannot, in good conscience, think that because somebody claims he was elected in a parliament in La République du Cameroon, he can help us address these issues. That is wishful thinking. We have since declared that we are a different country. Therefore, our fight now is to get the international community to act on this issue, because it cannot continue in this way. And if it continues, it is genocide, the second
Mr.
degree
Mbese,
genocide.
Mr. Mbeseha, very quickly and very briefly, we have taken a lot of time on this. Will you look at that image and the testifier? What do you feel? Please talk to us briefly on that. Very briefly, please.
I think it's horrible. There's no doubt about that. It is horrible. It should not have happened to them. It should not happen to anybody there. But let me just make this side comment. You don't, just so that we get educated, we don't expect these lawyers, our Ambazonians, to stand up for us, even though they were born with us. Why? Because in law, if you take up somebody's case, if you are acting, let me say, in Salai, you are not allowed to betray your own client. You take off his case or you defend the case. You put the best side of it. So the definition of genocide, as said by Agbombala or as said by Salah or any other person, does not bind the
Mundo.
institutions uh, that it does not bind the institutions that prosecute against genocide. It doesn't bind them. So they can say other nonsense. It doesn't bind the institutions that prosecute genocide. And so we can move on. Again, as a side remark, even internally displaced, whether you like them or not, internally displaced have a rule, they have guidelines that they should follow when they treat them. Those guidelines are sent to the country where they claim to be internally displaced. And if the government cannot provide that, they seek for assistance from international organizations to assist them, to accompany them, to protect these internally displaced. If that is not done, it is a crime. But what your question is, what do we do from this awful situation? The answer is this: we make sure those images, the videos are properly documented and sent to the appropriate quarters. And I can tell you here right now that I personally have taken the steps to be sure that the images and the videos that you are showing us reach the proper documentation that can go to where the thing can be prosecuted at the appropriate time. That's our responsibility to report it. And you make sure I ask somebody on the ground to go there, take the images, get the full date because there's a procedure to report those things. The date, the place, and everything that took place there. I have personally done that. And so that's how we can do it. That's how we should do it going forward. Because what is going on in that place is only one is tip of the iceberg. There are many others happening somewhere that are not reported. We saw this because that gentleman was bold enough to take the pictures. It does. So many things might be going on like that somewhere else in Bafusam, in Douala, somewhere else. It might be going on. It is our responsibility to make sure that they are properly documented and sent to the appropriate quarters. Those who prosecute those type of crimes at the appropriate time, they will be prosecuted. As simple as that. Again, for me, the fact that I'm born in the BLM does not necessarily make me a defender of the BLM until I stand up when the BLM is in trouble. If I choose to go with the enemy, so be it. As an adult, you have the right to do it. But again, finally, we don't expect those lawyers, we don't expect Salah, we don't expect Agombala who are acting for the enemy to indict their own clients. They will not do it. If they know it, this they will not tell the story to indict their clients. They are being paid for the job. And as a lawyer, they pay you because you defend the guy, even in wrongdoing. If you take the case, you defend them. You put the best side of what you know. The fact that you put that case does not mean that you win the case in court. And so that is their role. That's how I see their role to be. Our role, challenging them, is to be sure that these things don't go unpunished. But since you and me cannot create a court to punish them, we can only gather the evidence to present at the appropriate time
And this
before an
and that and that
tribunal.
and that and that really should also advise us in our approach to defend the homeland, because the war has got to end, and if there's any time we want it to end, it should be ending now.